Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of the Six-Sided Podcast. Back from vacation, I'm your host, the Taxman, and this week I'm actually joined once again by Micheal Larkin. You'll remember him from episode 16, and he joined me tonight. Actually, it's funny, I had caught his show, and we're going to reference it in this episode, his review show of All In with Chef, and a lot of the things that they talked about in that show actually related to the Impact show tonight, so it was kind of funny how it worked. I had asked him before to come back on, and tonight just worked, and it just worked out that it was all kind of related to his, like I said, his other project, which you're going to hear all about in my conversation with him. Now, before I get into that, I just got to say a special hello to all of our new YouTube subscribers. There's quite a few because I've been on vacation for a little bit, so you have to bear with me. So we had Brad Hay, Apex Company, The Gaming Channel, Live Do Tube, Lycon Picks Gaming, Freaks of Wrestling Podcast, Remnants Gaming, Heel Balor, So Salio, Retro Wrestling Games, Showtime Studios, Gianni Torpedo, Fendi YT, Dominating Spud, RP Chatelian, VRA Nation, Mauricio Jr., and Remnants Gaming. Once again, thank you all to the new YouTube subscribers. If I missed you, it's possible that your profile is private, so you don't actually appear on my subscribers page, so I can't give you the shout out. But if I did miss you, feel free to leave it in the comments, and I'll make sure I get you on for the next show. As usual, if you subscribe to the YouTube page, I'll make sure I get you a shout out on the next available show. And speaking of which, I actually had, while I was on vacation, had a live cast I did. If you haven't checked that out, I just did like Six-Sided Podcast special, just a thank you for hitting 200 subscribers. It was fun because my daughters crashed the thing, and it was just me on vacation, couple of pops, and some wrestling talk, and I was very lucky to be able to be joined at the time by Micheal Larkin, who you're going to hear right now, Andre Corbeil, and a couple others. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to do one again, I'm sure, once I hit 300 subscribers on YouTube, so if you're listening to this program, please, I encourage you, hit that bright red button. It's free. There's no obligation to buy, if you will, but it helps me out quite a bit, so please, once again, subscribe to us on YouTube. If you are listening to this on one of our other platforms, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, or anywhere else that you find steal, barter, trade, or whatever this podcast, make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you leave a nice review, hopefully a nice review, because, you know, it would suck if you hated the show and left a shitty review, and I look at it and go, oh, goddamn. Nobody wants that, but anyways, I digress a little bit. Rate and review us, subscribe, like I said. You can also find us on Twitter. I'm going to go through all this at the end of the show, as you usually do as well, at 6_podcast. But before I get into anything else, I'm going to throw it right now to my conversation with Micheal Larkin and our review of tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling. Very pleased to be joined once again for round 2. Micheal Larkin joining me on the Six-Sided Podcast. Mike, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
So if anybody missed it the first time, although I don't know why you would have, because it was actually the most listened to episode of the podcast. If you heard it, you know why. But Mike does a lot of work with the HeelCast. You may have heard of them. They're a big conglomerate of individuals. And actually, funny enough, I just had listened to this morning. I guess it came out last night. If you'll correct me if I'm wrong, you did a review of All In with Chef, and I thought it was tremendous. I don't know if you wanted to speak on that, a couple of words at least.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. Myself and Chef on the Impact Bodega. It's on the YouTube channel, Impact Bodega Podcast. Bodega Podcast on Instagram, Impact Bodega Pod on Twitter. And Robert Does Wrestling will put it out, Wrestling Robert. Yeah, myself and Chef, we talked about this past All In. And I gotta say, I really did enjoy the show. The only thing that's been really getting like a backlash from the event is the whole Joey Ryan with the penis druids, if you want to call them that. The whole thing that happened with Joey Ryan coming back to life after the murder that he suffered on being the Elite from Adam Hangman Page. But all in all, it was a great show, and Chef and I had a lot of fun talking about that. We really did enjoy the show, and I mean the surprise of Chris Jericho to promote the Jericho Cruise. All in all, it was a great show from top to bottom, and Cody Rhodes winning that NWA title for his daddy.
I thought, and just keeping in line with that Chris Jericho tidbit that happened in that show, I thought you guys had a fantastic point, how kind of relating that to Impact Wrestling, and he's been kind of tied with them. Is he going to come on? Is he not? And you guys had made the fantastic point that, you know, if he's going to come in, it can't just be a one-off, one and done. It's such a waste. It would have to be something in terms of building towards a feud with somebody, or he's got to come in and verbally joust with someone like an Eli Drake, you had mentioned, like a Joe Hendry as well. And I was listening to it, and I was just like, yeah, like, you guys hit the nail on the head for sure. And I was, yeah, like I said, it was a hell of a listen for myself anyways. And if anybody hasn't listened to that one, maybe you didn't check All In out. If you didn't, obviously you missed a hell of a show, but definitely want to check out the recap and review done by Mike and Chef. It's, what can I say, man? You guys did a hell of a job. You honestly knocked it out of the park. I was thrilled.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And if anybody also wants to check it, besides the Impact Bodega YouTube, you can check it out on SoundCloud.com/MCLarkin92, where I do all my shows. And actually, I'll say this right now. If anybody wants to check out the website, it's up right now, StephenMikeShow.com. That's www.StephenMikeShow.com. Takes you to all the shows that are on the S&M Show Podcast Network. I got that up and running as well.
And what could be easier than that? One-stop shop, if you will.
Exactly. But yeah, the only other thing I'll mention about the Chris Jericho thing, because we did mention guys like Joe Hendry, and I've always said, and I've said it on the HeelCast, I've said on my shows, the three main opponents for Jericho, if he does decide to do the Impact thing, I've always said it's got to be Eli Drake, it's got to be Sami Callihan, or it's got to be Austin Aries. I don't want to see him do a one-thing deal like we mentioned. I want to see him have a nice feud if it ever happens with Impact Wrestling. And personally, if you look at the New Japan side of things, he's the current Intercontinental Champion. They got Wrestle Kingdom coming up in January. What a better way to have the Jericho Naito rematch for the title than at Wrestle Kingdom.
So, and once again, I know I said it a bunch of times, but I highly encourage everybody to go check out the chat that Chef and Mike had, because we're going to be talking, there's a lot of talking points that you guys had in that conversation that completely relate to tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling, which is, funny enough, just another positive reason, or yeah, it's a big plus actually, to just have you on tonight. Now that one is fresh, now that this episode is fresh, we can kind of chop it up in regards to both episodes and just kind of pick your wrestling savant brain, if you will, a little bit.
Man, let's do it.
Okay, so we'll run down the matches first off, then we'll hit any talking points that you may or may not want to hit in the card itself, and then we'll just have some fun after. We'll pick that brain of yours, but. So we had our first match of the night was Rich Swann versus Petey Williams. It's actually a rehash of last week at the Redefined show, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was also the first show or first match on that show as well, correct?
Yeah, I think they both opened up very strong. Oh no, that was the one they opened with Brian Cage and Phoenix on that. That was later.
Oh, is that okay? So yes. So I'm mistaken there, but in any case, this was the quote-unquote rubber match, although you can't really have that in a 50-50 situation. But I thought that this was a pretty decent match, considering we just almost essentially saw the exact same thing last week. This one had a couple of different nice spots. I liked that Petey Williams Hurricane Rana, actually, from the apron to the outside. Essentially, Petey Williams wins the match with my favorite move in professional wrestling, and no, it's not just because I'm Canadian. He wins it with the Canadian Destroyer, and we had a little bit of interference prior to that from Matt Sydal. Now, he had joined the broadcast in progress, if you will, kind of trying to open up the third eye of Rich Swann. Now, I'm curious what you think about this whole Matt Sydal, Rich Swann dichotomy that they seem to be going with right now.
I would love to see that match. I think Rich Swann and Matt Sydal would have a great chemistry. Petey Williams, like you mentioned, gets the one with the Canadian Destroyer. Matt Sydal wanting Rich Swann to open up his third eye, and then in the back, Rich Swann just told him to stay the hell away from me. So, I mean, I'm interested to see where it goes. I want to see more Rich Swann and Matt Sydal in the matchup, add Petey Williams to it. I'm interested to see it. That's all I can say. I'm looking forward to see where it goes going forward.
To me, I almost would love for this to be a match, like I'm talking about a match at Bound for Glory. Have them build this one for a while, because I think, like, you always hear, like, oh, you can't give too much away on TV, and I agree to a point. Obviously, your matches on television have to be entertaining, otherwise you're not going to have an audience. But a match between these two, with the caliber of talent, with the amount of talent they have, with just the amount that they are willing to sacrifice their bodies on a large stage, if you will, I think Bound for Glory is the perfect place to do it. And if they choose to go that route, then I would love to see. They would have about a month to make that build now.
Oh yeah, and you know what it is too. They could also do, because MLW is also running that month in New York. Actually, I believe the same venue, the Melrose Ballroom in Queens. So you might even see some MLW superstars that, like the Impact superstars doing some MLW stuff like they did with the last one. I know, unfortunately, Rich Swann got concussed at their last event, but who knows? You might see some Impact stars on some MLW shows. A nice little tie-in there.
For me, that just makes perfect sense. And honestly, the more networking, the more interaction there are between these companies, now you're really seeing the benefits of all of these, personality crossovers, right? You're seeing the benefits of people being showcased on Lucha Underground, then on Impact, or on Impact, then MLW. And actually, I don't know if you caught it, but I had watched the Blackcraft Wrestling pay-per-view last month with my buddy Evan. I don't know if you caught that at all, but they had a bunch of, like, independent guys I didn't really know, but OVE was there. They got a huge pop. They had Johnny he's not Johnny Impact there, he's Johnny Blackcraft. Figure that one out, but he ended up winning their heavyweight title. It was a 3-way match between himself, Jimmy Havoc, who is actually going to be at that MediaCon card, and the third guy's escaped me right now. But anyways, just like, once again, you're seeing all these promotions just kind of tie in with each other, and it's just a ton of great cross promoting is definitely a welcome change in the landscape of professional wrestling right now.
Absolutely. I mean, I know what you're talking about with the Blackcraft. I saw it being talked about on social media. Heard it was a hell of a card, so I do absolutely know what you're talking about there. Nice tie-ins, you can see a lot of them in MLW, Lucha Underground, Impact, all these promotions. So again, I 100% agree with you on part of it, as far as the tie-ins go. And as far as Rich Swann and Matt Sydal, let's just see where it goes, man. I thought it was a great way to start Impact with the solid matchup between Petey and Swann.
Yeah, I totally agree there. So our second match of the night, we had the Daisy Hit Squad versus Grado and Joe Henry. Shout out to Trent, by the way, from We Talk Impact. I'm finally getting the name right. I thought that this was a decent match, and obviously it was building up to the end of the match when we're going to get there eventually, but one of my favorite spots in this match, and I've been big on Joe Henry ever since actually we had started talking about him, like way back in our first conversation. You really put me onto him, and then the guys from Just Because Wrestling as well. And so I went back and I was watching his intros and I was watching his old matches, and I thought tonight when he did that double fallaway slam, like, that was just tremendous. And, like, say what you will about the Daisy Hit Squad, I know Hakeem Zayn, or sorry, now it's
Rohit Raju.
Yes, Rohit Raju. Yes, the name change escaped me for a second. He's a smaller guy, but Gursinder Singh is a big dude, and the fact that he was able to do the double fallaway slam with both of them I thought it was a tremendous spot. But we ended up having the Daisy Hit Squad get the win after another bumbled Grado. He should have had the one in the bag. I'll kind of let you speak on that one a little bit.
All right, so the finish came where Grado took the sky high from Gersinger, the 1, 2, 3. Just the miscommunications and all that, and he should have had it in the bag, which led to what we knew what was going to happen. The whole, Katarina with the whole, oh, I'm in love with Joe. I'm not in love with you, Grado. You're nothing but a loser. And then it's like, Don't You Understand Platonic Love? And that was a big key to that, because that Platonic Love song was great. I think I'm in love with my best friend's girl, but only just as a friend. And I thought that was very entertaining with that entrance. And then you see Joe, shove her off from the kiss, and then she slaps Joe Hendry in the face. So Joe Hendry and Gretel may not have the girl, but they got each other as best friends.
I loved that entrance. This guy, you want to talk about guys who having creative freedom and impact and what they can really bring to the table. Like, this guy just oozes creativity, and the Daisy shit squad. Just I seen that pop up on the TV and I just burst out laughing. I thought it was tremendous. It's so good.
The dude is just highly entertaining. As I said, he's been doing this since the UK with ICW. And if anybody wants to go see those intros, I recommend it. 2 or maybe 3 I recommend. He did one for Jack Jester using the Venga Boy song, Boom, Boom, Boom. Jack Jester's In My Room. When Drew Galloway was in ICW, he used the Eiffel 65 song, Blue, I'm Blue. If I was Drew, I would die. What he's done with what his music is and incorporating that with his wrestling is amazing. He's an amazing talent. He's going to be on MediaCon, which we'll discuss in a little bit. But yeah, I thought the whole thing was funny. And then they come back, they got each other. He's going to take his pal Grado for ice cream. So, I mean, hey, like I said, it's a thing where you may have lost the girl, but you still got each other. Best friends till the end. Boom.
So our third match of the night, and this one is a quote-unquote match. We had Eli Drake basically squashing Stone Rockwell. I don't know about yourself, but every time I see the Stone Rockwell, the stuff on Twitter, and I understand that he has a Twitch show as well. I don't have Twitch, so I haven't seen it myself. This guy just, again, follows this vein of creative guys kind of striking it out on their own and doing something completely off the beaten path of, we'll say classic professional wrestling. I'm using this term very loosely. You guys can't see I got my fingers in quotation marks here, but yeah, we have Eli Drake just basically squash him with the gravy train. It was a quick one, but I don't know about you. I want to see more of Stone Rockwell. I'm curious how his character, his character can go given a bigger stage. It's great for 30-second videos on Twitter. I want to see more. I want to see what he can do with a segment. I want to see what he can do in longer matches and maybe a feud. I want to see where he can go with something.
Ooh, okay, so as first and foremost, yes, the adventure show that he has on Twitch, I've only seen one clip. There was one clip of him and Jimmy Jacobs getting their nails done together, which I was like, okay, so that's out there somewhere.
Which is totally Jimmy Jacobs, too.
Exactly. He's a princess. A princess gets what he wants. So, yeah, that fit. Then he comes out, he does the thing, did somebody say adventure? And then we have the squash that is Eli Drake giving him the gravy train. Now, this dude has actually been around since 2001, 2002. He's a well-known guy in Canada. He's done BCW. I know he wrestled under another moniker, but that name escapes me. But he's mostly known now for this whole Indiana Jones type of gimmick as Stone Rockwell. But, I mean, he's done one-night-onlys before. I think he's done some matches on Explosion like one Sugar Dunkerton has and all these guys. But, I mean, let's see where he goes from here. And that was just a way to showcase him by getting the gravy train, being a dummy. Yeah. And we have more of these Eli Drake open challenges to come.
I know a lot of people have been down on how they've been using Eli Drake lately. I kind of look at it the opposite. You kind of want him, I gotta collect my thoughts here for a second. He just oozes charisma. You don't want to boo him. So they have to put him in a position that you want to boo him. So he has to go out and have these squash matches, destroying, local jobbers, and now Stone Rockwell, who got a pretty good pop when he came out. He needs to be doing these things. Otherwise, you're going to fall into the trap of, yeah, okay, we know he's a heel, but he's the cool heel. And it's just, for him, he either has to be, in my opinion, the top babyface in the company, or he can't be a tweener. He has to be the top babyface, and that's it, or he has to be a heel, and that's it. To me, his character suffers too much if he's the cool heel, and everybody's doing the catchphrase, and everybody's, doing the dummy, yeah, and he just kind of lets it go. I like when he cuts it off, and to me, the way that they're using him right now, you're obviously building up that heel aspect. If they turn him later, great. I think he could be a tremendous babyface, but until then, you can't really... You can't let him fall into that tweener role, in my opinion.
I mean, I absolutely can see him falling that tweener role. I'm still going to support him either way. I mean, the dude, I love the dummy. I even have the dummy button on my phone.
Yeah.
The dude oozes charisma. I mean, if you look at it, this guy's come a long way. When we first saw him in Impact Wrestling, he was a part of the, The Rising? It was him, Drew Galloway, and Micah, who would go on to be Tonga Loa in the Bullet Club in New Japan Pro Wrestling, the Firing Squad. I mean, then after that broke off, he started doing the Dummy thing. Then he was in, like, a brief partnership with Jesse Goddard. There was the brief partnership with Chris Adonis. Then he's the world champion. Then he's not the world champion. Now he's doing this thing with the Cult of Lee, and he's now doing these open challenges. So, I mean... The dude is money, whatever he does. He uses charisma, and I think he's an asset. He's a true asset to that company. I want to see him do more. I just want to see Eli Drake, man. Just put him on my TV, and I'll watch him. I'll listen to what he has to say. Yeah,
I agree. The guy's tremendous, and the more Eli Drake, for me, the better. That's for damn sure. In our, I got tongue-tied there a little bit. Our fourth match of the night was actually a Knockouts title rematch. We had Su Yung challenging the newly crowned Tessa Blanchard. You'll remember that Tessa had won the title last week in the triple threat match between the aforementioned Su Yung and Ali. I thought that this match was kind of a slow start, which is fine for what they're trying to do with these characters. I thought the ending was tremendous. That top rope cutter that, I guess it was kind of a cutter, that Tessa delivered on Su Yung was it was devastating for sure. And I loved Tessa countering the panic switch, hitting her with the buzzsaw after. That was just a tremendous way to finish that match off. Just your thoughts on the match itself.
Sure, but first and foremost, I gotta say, Tessa Blanchard's been having a hell of a week. She came off a win at All In against Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker, Chelsea Green, and Madison Rayne in that excellent Fatal 4-Way matchup. And now we see what she's doing with Su Yung. I love the cutter spot, and I even love Su Yung doing the spider walk head scissors that she did. I thought that was amazing. Both ladies are just great at what they do. I mean, Tessa has only been in the business for like 2 or 3 years, and she's killing it. Look at her wrestling pedigree that she has with her father and her stepfather. Su Yung, I mean, she's been in Shine. She's been all around the independent scene. I mean, this whole Japan, this whole Undead Bride gimmick is great. I loved how the promo before, just Tessa was on the coffin, and, the time has come. Your time has come. So I really did enjoy the matchup. I thought they worked well together. Like you said, they went for the panic switch. Buzzsaw, 1, 2, 3. Tessa retains. Then we got, the Undead Bridesmaids coming out. We're going to put her in the coffin. She's in the coffin. Here comes Allie and Kiera Hogan to help him. And then, she says, I don't need any friends. And she pretty much blows off Kiera Hogan and Allie. So I'm interested to see where that goes. We're probably going to get more Tessa and Allie. The in-crux with Kiera Hogan's cool. I know Kiera Hogan's doing her thing in Shine. Kiera Hogan is another babyface on the Knockouts roster, so you incorporate her a lot. Overall, I thought the entire presentation of the matchup and afterwards was great. I loved the line that Tessa had. She points to the title, and then she points at Allie, and she says, you have friends, I have this. This is why I don't need friends. And something along those lines. It's just like, she just buries Allie for being the nice girl, but I agree with you 100%. This segment did exactly, or delivered exactly what it should have. You get the tease, right, of Tessa going in the casket. Is she going away for good? No, it doesn't happen. You have Allie. A lot of people might have interpreted this as like, oh, maybe Tessa's gonna, maybe turn a little bit. No, she's still gonna be stone cold and just fantastic. I love her character. I love everything about her. Her work is fantastic. And that all-in match, I know you guys were really, really happy with the results of that one, and it's pretty obvious why. Like, she is a star. Like, in every sense of the word. The way she carries herself, the way she talks on the mic, the way she works in the ring, just everything about her just oozes star. And it's fantastic. And I'm definitely glad that we get to see her just about every week on Impact Wrestling. Oh, yeah. The girl's an asset. I'm very happy that she signed her deal. I think she adds a lot to the Knockouts division. And actually, one knockout I got to mention, Scarlett Bordeaux, because I know she was doing her thing with Bobo in the back. What'd you think about, I had to ask you, Taxman, what'd you think about that whole thing with Fallah Bahh, KM, and Scarlett Bordeaux in the backstage area?
So, first off, I love the matching outfits now that KM and Fala seem to have adopted. I'm curious to see. I assume that KM is taking it that they need to have a title shot. Scarlett was mentioning how she loves a guy who has power. I'm thinking that that's the direction they're going to go. But the more that I see Scarlett in these backstage segments, the more comfortable she looks to me. Like, I know that may be kind of an odd thing to say, but the first few kind of seemed forced almost a little bit. And now it really seems like she is this character. She is the seductress. She is going to just, she's a 10. What can I say? But she just seems to be really enjoying the role, and it really seems to be coming naturally to her now rather than the first few, which were a little bit forced, like I said. But and then Bobo, you gotta love Bobo. He's like that little puppy that's being led on a leash, and you have the treat on a string with a long pole, and it's right in front of his nose, but he can't really get there. And so I love it. I think it's just one of these things that breaks up the monotony of a wrestling show, because as far, I'm all for being serious, and wrestling's supposed to be a serious competition, yada yada yada. You still need these breaks, these different characters, these different portrayals of what somebody can be in a company to kind of freshen it up and lighten the mood. And I think that the way they're going with her is the way to go right now. I can't wait to see her in the ring. By the way, speaking of which, did you, and I don't remember what show it was, I think it was at an AAW show, did you catch her completely obliterating Trevor Lee with the Canadian Destroyer this past weekend?
I did. I saw the video. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Oh my god. If anybody hasn't seen this thing, like, go to your way. There's a ton of GIFs even about it, but essentially she lures Trevor Lee in with a kiss, and he's obviously starstruck, we'll say. And she gives him the boot and just obliterates him with the Canadian Destroyer. It's so fantastic. Like, oh man, if you haven't seen it, go to your way and watch it. But just one of these things that I can't wait till Scarlett actually wrestles a match, but I want to see her in something meaningful. I just don't want to see her in a throwaway. To me, it's got to be something that has some kind of a story or makes sense somewhere along the lines. Maybe she wrestles Katarina, who knows, but that's my opinion on it anyways.
The other thing I wanted to actually mention, because I know we're going to get back to the other matches, but I got to ask your thoughts, because we do have our first two matches, and we'll talk about that as well. But LAX and Conan versus the OGs and King looks to be happening at Bound for Glory, the final war. What'd you think about that LAX and King segment?
Can I say that I was expecting something different?
What, then, like a Godfather kind of like meeting kind of deal?
Yeah, for me, it was lacking something. Like, I understand you have three, Dawn heads at the table, but to me, I almost wished that there was some sort of wrestling tie-in. Like, I would have loved, because, like, and this is going back to last week where they get the phone calls, right? They each have a phone call. Yes, sir, we'll be at the meeting, telling the boys, nobody's doing anything until we come back. But then there's no tie-in. There's no, like, you don't know who these three guys are from at anybody, really. I would have almost loved it to be like, what if one of them was Chavo Guerrero, for example, right? Or what if one of them was, like, somebody really deeply rooted in the Latino community or the, Mexican or Puerto Rican wrestling community, like one of the Colones or whatever, but, like, just that little bit of, I don't know what the word is, but
a little bit of flavor to it. I totally get you, because us at the Bodega, we've talked about this. They mentioned it on podcasts. I've had it in my podcast as well. As far as, like, someone being, like, incorporated with it, like, I understand your legends, like a Guerrero or a Cologne, but we would love to see, like, the female tie-in. Like, LAX, you got Diamante, but you bring in Ivelisse Velez, there's the tie-in with Lucha Underground there, and put her with the OGs.
Yeah, like, to me, that would make sense. That would make more sense than what they... And I'm not saying what they did was bad, don't get me wrong, but for me, it just lacked that... It lacked that extra something. That's all I can really say about it. The segment was fine. It got the point across, and And now we're going to see, and this was actually my favorite part of the announcement, that it's actually going to be a 6-man tag because Conan and Kingston will be competing in the match. I want to know what you think about that part of it, that little caveat, if you will.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see Conan get back in the ring, and I've seen Eddie Kingston live. The dude's amazing at what he does. I mean, Eddie Kingston can wrestle. I mean, we've seen him do his thing on the independent scene. He wrestled a little bit in Impact when he was a part of the DCC, but I mean, the dude can work. Let him showcase himself. The dude's a great brawler. You have Homicide and Hernandez, the veterans, with him. You got Santana and Ortiz who are doing their thing. We've seen them on the independent circuit still doing their thing as well. House of Glory. We've seen them all over. So just let these guys have a brawl. Let it be what it's encompassed. Let it be what it's entitled, The Final War. Just let them go at it, October 14th, Bound for Glory.
So, keeping in mind with that, that this is going to be like the final big blow-off, or this version of the big blow-off at least, what kind of a match do you want to see out of them? Do you want to see another street fight, or do you want to see something like a lucha-style 6-man tag, or what kind of match would you want to see? Just, we're freestyling here, obviously, everybody. But just for yourself, what kind of match do you think would fit this feud at this pay-per-view?
Street fight I'd be fine with, because you are in the streets, you are in Queens, New York, so it incorporates more street fight rules. Anything street fight, hardcore match, a death match, I don't even know. Something, because you can't just have it be like a normal, well, lucha tornado tag, yes, but it's just like, it has to be something more, to it, because, I mean, this is like a blood feud. This is a feud with the streets. They brought it to the streets. Little Richie's going to be okay. They did say the Little Richie's going to be okay. But, I mean, there has to be something more. It can't just be a normal 6-man. It has to be something more attached to it. So if it's a street fight, it's a street fight because it represents Queens. You know what I'm saying? You had the street element to it. I'd be fine with that again.
I would love to see almost, and I'm not sure if you can do it with, like, I'm not sure about time constraints, obviously, but like a 3-on-3 last man standing match. Mm-hmm. If they could pull something like that off, like, obviously that would eat up a ton of time on the card. But, like, something like that, if this is the last, big hurrah for these guys, maybe that's the way to go. But, yeah, to your point, yeah, you can't just have, a standard 6-man. It's got to be something. I also wouldn't want to see this one in a cage either. I want to see these guys be able to get out in the crowd, be able to get out in the open, really let loose, if you will. And I think, if it was in a cage, that would not be the best way to go, in my opinion.
And I know we're going to touch upon the matches in the main event segment, but the other segment just came to me. What did you think about, we have Moose, we have Killer Cross, and we got Austin Aries sitting in the back. Alicia wants to get a word with them, but then here comes Alicia Edwards wanting to know, why, Moose, why? What'd you think of the whole thing with Alicia Edwards and all them in the backstage area?
I didn't like her getting involved in this. I didn't like her getting involved last week either. To me, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what I didn't like about it, but I didn't like it.
Well, here it is. She comes off whiny, man, like, Eddie, are you kidding? Moose, sit down and eat your banana. Moose, how good you? Oh my God. She just comes off whiny, and it's just like, shut up. All right, we get it. You're angry, but let them fight. Let Moose and Eddie, go at it, do their thing. She just comes off like, I understand, because I didn't like it either, because she comes off too whiny. It's too whiny for me.
Yeah, that's okay. Then that's what it like. I'm watching it and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, if this is a shoot, and, like, obviously it's not, but Impact has done a really great job of making things look like a shoot lately, this would not happen. You wouldn't have, the dude's wife running in there like a banshee at the top of her lungs, acting like a fool. It wouldn't be that at all. So I'm watching this, and I'm like, I can't buy any of this. Like, I don't know if they're just getting Alicia's screen time or what it was, but, like, to me, it was a total miss. I get the part about, like, denying Alicia a toot or a tout, however you pronounce it, denying her the, the exclusive whatever that they're going to do in the ring after, but, yeah, to me, just Alicia Edwards in there just didn't make any sense.
It really didn't. And like you said, if you incorporate real-life elements and a real-life aspect to it, that would not happen. Her storming through like, and that whole... I'm sorry, I know that's not what she said, people, but it's how she sounded. She sounded very whiny and screaming at the time. We're like, oh my God, how could you? But it's just like, that's what it was. You don't see none of that. You let the man-to-man, face-to-face, the man-to-man, encounter. Just let it fly. You don't leave the family out of it. It's kind of like a street element if you want to incorporate LAX and OGs. Just leave family, leave everybody out of it. Just do it mano-y-mano.
Yeah, I have to. I totally agree, obviously. And it's funny you mentioned the family element, because we just got off the LAX segment where they specifically made that point about you're supposed to leave family out of it, and then what happens in this next segment. It just, one of those things. There's very few misses lately in Impact, and to me that was a miss.
Oh, okay. They also do it. I got to get your thoughts, because every week we obviously, and all the listeners know, we get the GWN moment of the week. And this week's moment of the week, last week it was Grado and Al Snow and the debut of Drew Galloway. This week it was Bully Ray beating Jeff Hardy at Lockdown 2013 for the World Heavyweight Championship and the formation of the Aces and Eights.
It's funny because I'm like, the GWN thing. And like half the time I honestly flip through it because I just like... Either I've seen it recently, because I've been doing a lot of watching old matches back with the whole TNA Impact in Reverse show. So a lot of these I've seen recently, so I'm like, I don't need to see this again. So I'm like going through this one, and then I see Hogan come out in the crutches, and I'm like, oh fuck, wait a minute, something actually important happens here. And then it's the Aces and Eights big reveal. Devon's out there and everything else. Like, I'm not sure why they picked this one in particular. Lately, it seems like they've been picking them based off of other things in the wrestling environment, we'll say. So I thought that this particular match was kind of an odd choice, but just that caught my eye, and I just burst out laughing. I was like, oh yeah, Aces and Eights.
But yeah, Aces and Eights, and you see, and you even see former talent there. You see Mike Knox. This is when Devon was just there. Luke Gallows, who was Doc. Then obviously later on we would have Wes Briscoe, Garrett Bischoff, and all these people, D'Lo Brown, and I mean, so yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh god, I couldn't help but laugh, and not in a good way of laughing, like, the Stone Rockwell stuff. This was like, oh god,
Come on, Taxman. I mean, Tito Ortiz was in the Aces and Eights for a little bit, so there you go.
Yeah, he sure was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So from that match, we'll call it, we'll go into our last match of the night. We had a 6-man tag. Now, I may get some of the names wrong here, and if I do, please correct me, but we had Zachary Wentz, Ace Austin, and Trent McGowell.
Correct.
Trey McGowell. Perfect. Okay, Trey McGowell, yes. Versus OVE. And I thought this match was a barn burner, like, for setting OVE up. And I know that they went on a big, Sami Callihan himself went into that big, kind of losing streak there for a little bit, but way to showcase them as, like, these guys are still one of the preeminent powerhouses in professional wrestling, and they absolutely murdered these three gentlemen. Like, they let the local talent, we'll say, get their shine a little bit. I loved a lot of the dives onto the outside. Almost every man from each team had theirs, it seemed, until it was broken up by Dave Christ, I believe. But, I thought this match was a hell of a match, and Sami Callihan just, to me, looks like he is, in my opinion, the MVP of Impact Wrestling right now. This guy does everything. But, and the end of this match, what did you think of that super cutter that they did? I guess they called it the all-seeing eye. I had never seen it before. I'm not sure about yourself.
I mean, they've done it where, Jake will catch him out of midair, but I think they've done it like one other time. But yeah, what is it? The all-seeing,
all-seeing eye. I think I caught Josh made that reference there.
All-seeing. Okay, thank Thank you, Taxman. Yeah, I love the cutter. I think it's a great finish. Anything involving a cutter is always nice because you always think of, the diamond cutters. I mean, you look at now with Randy Orton with the RKO. Even take it back to when Johnny Ace with the Ace Crusher right there. But
yeah.
I always loved the cutter move. So, I mean, I thought it was perfectly executed. The dives that each guy did, the block, I think one of them did like a tope and it turned out to like a blockbuster and they fell off on each other. I mean, Sammy with the pile driver taken out after the match, the promo. Zachary Wentz and Desmond Xavier are actually a team on the Indies. We've seen Zachary Wentz fight Matt Sydal. Trey Miguel, I believe, is also aligned with them. And Ace Austin is another great talent. I think all these guys have actually wrestled for Pro Wrestling Revolver, which is Sami Callihan's promotion. So there's also that tie-in there. Sami Callihan getting his boys on the show and just having a hell of a match that they did. And it showcases what it looks like we're going to get in the future, as we saw with both of their promos. We're going to get OVE versus the Lucha Brothers and Brian Cage, which I'm looking forward to, and I want to see it.
Just getting back to your point, that post-match promo, that's what I want to see out of Sami Callihan. That intensity, that, unhinged. And I love them on commentary, oh, look at him. He's disgusting. Look at his spit. I like the little nuances and the little things they put on or put in commentary when he's in a match just makes it that much better. I love everything about this team. They're absolutely killing it. One final thing I wanted to ask you. What did you think of Jake Crist kind of mirroring Sami Callihan that whole time?
Well, they're best friends. It incorporates that, and they even implement it. He calls himself the mini draw, so he's like Sammy's counterpart. He's his buddies, his little buddy, his side dude. I mean, they're all family. It's great. Dave's doing his thing, but him and Jake have that bond that I think is funny. I really do dig it. I've seen him do it in promos with him, and I've just seen him. We saw it in the ring, so I like it. I think it's a nice element to the old OVE faction.
I loved it. I caught onto it almost immediately, and then Josh started mentioning it on commentary. And the more I watched it, the more I was like, this is fucking tremendous. It's just, again, one of these layers that these guys are adding themselves into this whole, OVE character, whatever you want to call it, dichotomy. The way that they're structured is just fantastic. I love everything that they're doing, right? And these guys, obviously the Bullet Club is probably the hottest faction in professional wrestling, especially coming off of All In. But these guys are not far behind, in my opinion. And like I said, I seen them on that Blackcraft wrestling show, and they were fucking over. They were the most over anything on that show. It is incredible. And for me to see them kind of transcend all these other promotions and really be out there and really put themselves out there and not be afraid to try new things and do the crazy promos and do the hard cam vignettes and all that kind of stuff. I love everything they're doing. I think they're fantastic.
One final thing I'll say about Sami Callihan, and I've followed this dude since the Indies. I mean, if you want to see some great intensity or promos, him and John Moxley, who would go on to beat Dean Ambrose, they've had great promos on the independent circuit before they both got signed by the WWE at the time. I mean, Sammy would be Solomon Crow in NXT. You know what it was? It was just, I think they promised him, he's even said it himself, they promised him, he was going to get a big push, but guys like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who came around that same time, just got overshadowed him, and they pushed them more, and he got put on the back burner. And in a way, it was a good thing because he left. He said, I'm going to go out and do my thing. He's got Pro Wrestling Revolver. He comes to Impact. He's great at what he does with the promos and in OVE. He's become one of the most, daunting and most controversial and polarizing figures in Impact Wrestling. So I think what Sami Callihan's doing, just keep doing it. He's got the matchup with Marty Scurll coming on the Jericho Cruise. We're going to talk about his match on MediaCon after we're done talking about the show. So there's a lot of Sami Callihan elements that we'll incorporate as well. So I dig it, man. I dig it.
So speaking of the end of the show, we had the show go off the air after a in-ring promo. Moose explaining, why, Moose, why'd you turn goddamn heel? Moose in the ring with Killer Cross and Austin Aries. And then we had, and I'm going to get into this one a little bit because this one irked me just a touch, and maybe you'll think the same thing, but we had Johnny Impact come out. He says that he has, for some reason, a title shot at Bound for Glory, that he's apparently allowed to sign his own title shots. He gets a beat down for his trouble, and essentially we have the show go off the air with Austin Aries essentially trying to decapitate Johnny Impact with a chair on the ring post. So there's a little bit to get in here. I'm gonna say what bothered me, and we'll see what you thought of it. So, again, this kind of ties into what you and what you and Chef were talking about on the All In program that I had mentioned earlier on in the show. Is what's going on with Moose, and you guys had made a fantastic, comparison of nobody cared about him. Like it's shitty to say, but like he was just kind of spinning his wheels. He's there as a baby face, but what is he? There's nothing there that defines him. So they switch him heel. But now they have him with, and you guys had used the term vanilla midget champion, which you said it, and I thought about it, and I was like, I think you're onto something here. And I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, oh man, this whole faction, I know a lot of people are really into it for whatever reason. I'm not. I don't get it. To me, it doesn't make any sense. You look at just these three guys standing. Killer Kross is a fucking mountain of a man. He is huge. And Moose is no Smurf himself. And then you have little Austin Aries, who has a title that's bigger than he is. Am I missing something here? Is there something that's clicking and I don't get, or help me out here, Mike? I need some help here.
Okay, so here's what really irked me, and you made great points, and that's what, yes, we did talk about the Vanilla Midget Champion and the whole thing with Moose, because nobody cared about it. I mean, he was the backdrop to the whole Eddie Edwards, Sami Callihan thing going into Redemption, when it was him, Tommy Dreamer, and, and Eddie against OVE. The main focus was the whole Eddie and Sami Callihan thing. Then, they turn him heel. He has the match with Austin at Slammiversary. I don't get it either. I'm not really a big fan of the faction. I like Killer Kross a lot. I think he's an amazing worker. He's on AAA, Lucha Underground, and Impact, all three at the same time. But to help you out with this, the whole Johnny Impact thing, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Just last week or the week before, you got the Congo Kong took you out. And we don't even have, the follow-up matchup to that, the build off of that. We don't even have, Johnny Impact versus Congo Kong. It's just I signed some paperwork, and by the way, I'm going to challenge you for the title in the main event at Bound for Glory. So I'm like, you didn't really even, blow off the whole Congo Kong feud. What's the last time we're going to see a Congo Kong and Johnny Impact? Congo Kong takes a dip in the pool? Come on. Because if you look at the graphic for next week, there's LAX in action. There's the Cult of Lee against the Lucha Brothers. There's, oh God, they actually
have next week is also Congo Kong versus Brian Cage.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. You go back to Cage and Congo Kong, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's still some heat there with Congo Kong and Johnny Impact.
When he came out and first off, the promo was not great. Yeah. I'll be gentle and say it was not a very good promo, but I'm listening and I'm like, this doesn't make any fucking sense.
It doesn't. And of course he had to promote the movie, by the way.
Well, yeah. Which, that part I'm not as mad about because whatever, right? But, why in the world... They've done such a good job of capitalizing on these builds, these nice slow burns, these long programs. And you're going to hotshot this for no fucking reason at Bound for Glory? It makes zero sense. To me, I'm watching this... I'm in my living room watching it, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And not only that, but this is how you're going to end your show? And I'm like, what the fuck? I was, there's not been a lot of, and like I said before, there's not been a lot of misses on this show lately. And I'm talking, lately the past, well, since this regime has really taken over. But this one I'm like, fuck, this does not make any sense.
Dude, it doesn't. And here's what it is. they hotshot Johnny Impact in there, and like I didn't like it because you just totally blew off the whole Congo Kong thing, and like you mentioned, Congo Kong's fighting Cage next week. But I'm just like, all right, you hotshot him in there, and yes, I'll try, and I'll use that word loosely, try to make some logic out of this, because he did say after he was done with Congo Kong, he was going to take back, and he was going to go after the World Championship. And I mean, if you look at it this way, it's like, okay, Congo Kong went in the pool, he took out Jimmy Jacobs, and this is probably what they'll say, and like I said, I'm going to try to make some logic out of this, because I agree with your sentiments, like, what the fuck? But, yeah, man, like, they just hotshot this, and for the second year in a row, because he main evented it last year with Bound for Glory, Johnny Impact's going to be main eventing Bound for Glory.
I'm not taking anything away from Johnny Impact. Like, he's
Absolutely.
a fantastic worker, like, one of the best in the world. I don't understand why you do such great work to build these feuds, to build your pay-per-views, to have long, drawn-out, slow-burn angles with twists and turns and all this great writing, and this is your main event. And I'm looking at it like, and like, if he's going to main event too, fine, but give me a fucking build. I want a reason that he should be main eventing two Bound for Glories back-to-back. Like, I don't want this, like, oh yeah, I signed a contract in the back. What the fuck? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, no, you can't do it. Like, what the fuck? Come on, what the fuck? Oh, God. It totally undoes, like, so much good that this company does, because, and we all know it's going to happen. This will be the one thing that all the fucking moron trolls will pick up on, like, oh, look at LOL TNA, the guy writes his own fucking contract for a title shot. I guarantee you that's what's going to come out of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I was just what the fuck about it. I'm sure it'll be a fine match, but yeah, they just hotshot it out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, there's really no reason why they should be having this feud. I would have liked to see, like I mentioned, Johnny Impact and Congo Kong finish that blow-off, but whatever. And now we're going to get that, and so those are the two big matches that we have at Bound for Glory so far. The sixth man with LAX against the OGs, and now Austin Aries and Johnny Impact for the world title. So it was kind of a downer note for the whole the end of Impact. I thought everything else was solid, and it was fine for what it was. I thought they progressed nicely with what we have coming forward, but yeah, that main event segment kind of put a sour taste in my mouth.
All right, so let's try and calm my blood pressure down here a little bit. We'll kick it into a different gear a little bit. We'll talk about the MediaCon card coming up. That's this Sunday, correct?
Yes, Sunday, September 9th in Manchester, England, live on Twitch at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay,
so I'm doing the quick little mental math here. That's 11 o'clock my time. Actually, it's funny. I'll still be in the same time zone. I'm actually going to Minneapolis this week. I'm going to the Vikings home opener with Hollywood Southern Dandy. Thanks, Hollywood. I know you're going to be listening to this show, but so I will be trying to catch that one in the hotel room at least. So let's run down the card for this one.
Okay. We're going to see a lot of WOS wrestling stars on this, World of Sport wrestling stars. We'll start with this one. We have
I don't want to interrupt. I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
But, so, what is, or who is carrying World of Sport as a national broadcaster there? Did they ever figure that out, or is that still kind of fly-by-night at this point?
I think it's kind of fly-by-night, but I know I saw a lot of people, like Joe Hendry was signed there, and a lot of people are doing shows there. But yeah, World of Sport, right now it's just, it's kind of a fly-by-night thing, but I personally, I look forward to seeing where they're going with it. But I mean, I'm just looking to see where it goes. That's really all I can say. It's kind of a fly-by-night, because the last thing I saw was like, oh, Joe Hendry, World of Sport. And you saw like a lot of people being, introduced in what's going to be on the World of Sport Wrestling, like Joe Hendry, like I mentioned. I think Casey Owens was one. So that's just all I remember. I can't tell you about ownership in that. I just know it's fly-by-night, and they're going to be doing their thing. So, and they're associated with Impact Wrestling, so you incorporate a lot of World of Sport talent on this. So that's all I really know about it, dude.
Okay, so now that we've cleared that part out, we'll start running down the card. I promise not to interrupt very much.
No problem. So World of Sport wrestling stars Adam Flex, Maxted, Nathan Cruz, Justin Sysum, and Robbie X have been added to the UK team that will face the Impact Wrestling roster. The first match here that they have is a tag match. It's Maxted and Robbie X will take on Lucas Steele and Jake McCluskey in tag team action. The next match includes some more UK talent, and it's going to be Eddie Edwards. He's going to team with Justin Sissom against Moose and Nathan Cruz. We then have a triple threat X Division matchup as Rich Swann goes head-to-head with Matt Sydal and Trevor Lee in a triple threat matchup. And then we get to the big matchups. We have Joe Hendry versus Eli Drake in the rubber match at MediaCon. We have, we've seen her in What Culture Pro Wrestling, ICW, a lot of UK promotions. Lana Austin goes one-on-one with Sue Young. LAX will take on Fleisch and Storm for the Tag Team Championships. And then we have the big one that everybody's talking about. In the first ever barbed wire bat death match, Sami Callihan goes one-on-one with Jimmy Havoc.
So out of that card, I think I know what your answer is going to be, but what match for you is your must-see out of that card?
Okay, obviously I'd have to say the Callahan Jimmy Havoc match,
yeah.
But man, I'm going to tell you ones that are going to be good. Don't sleep on Lana Austin because I've seen her work. She's good. I think Sue Young will tear it down. Joe Hendry and Eli Drake, they're going to do their thing. I've seen Fleisch and Storm in the UK. Fleisch, ICW, Jody Fleisch and Storm. I mean, these guys are great as a tandem and the great single stars as well, and I think them and LAX will have a nice clash of styles there, and I think it'll be really good. What else we got? I'm not sure about the other gentlemen, but I'm look forward to seeing what they can do. And I think Rich Swann, Matt Sydal, and Trevor Lee are going to do it up X Division style. So I think that you have a solid afternoon of action in the United States.
I'm really looking forward to that Joe Henry match, actually. I'm curious to see how he's received by that crowd, considering he's against Eli Drake. I want to see if it's a lot of that split, you know, a lot of the people are excited because Eli Drake's there and he's never been there before. I don't think he's ever been there before. Don't quote me if I'm wrong. But, so I want to see if there's a large split in the crowd because the people are excited to see Eli Drake, or if it's going to be like, no, Joe Henry is the hometown boy, you know, obviously not by, you know, streets or anything like that, but if they're going to get really behind him on that. And obviously I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of an entrance he's going to pull out for this one.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I know when you go into the UK with this, I think it's really going to be interesting to see what they do, because, like I said, his entrances always in the UK have been great. He did a Queen entrance for one of the ICW shows. I mean, it's going to be good, and I'm looking at the venue right now. It's going to be at the Bowlers Exhibition Center, which is in Manchester, England. I'm going to see if I can find, like, the max capacity of it, but as we're talking about it, I mean, it's going to be a good show, man. I mean, it's solid action. The big one, like I said, is the whole is the Sami Callihan Jimmy Havoc one. So as I'm looking at this venue here, as we're talking, it's a nice venue. It's a nice seating. This Bowlers thing. I'll actually send you some of this. I'll send you the images when we're done talking. But it's a nice looking venue. That's really all I could say. And I'll be honest with you. I'll say this as well, because a lot of the former Impact knockouts, like we mentioned, Madison Rain, who was on All In, she's obviously going to be in the Mae Young Classic, and Allison Kay, the former Sienna. I got to say, those matches haven't been on yet. The first episode was actually on this past week. It was solid, man. I think they had a great start to the Mae Young Classic, but I gotta say, I'm interested to see, like, obviously the spoilers were out. I know that, spoiler alert, sorry people, but that Madison Rain and Allison Kay lose. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do there. I've been a fan. I'm still gonna support those girls. I mean, I've seen Madison Rain since her days on the Indies as Ashley Lane. She wrestled one match for Ring of Honor, and I know she's done Women of Honor and Impact. Allison Kay, I've seen her work in Women of Honor into Impact and transition to the whole Sienna gimmick and shine as well. I mean, it's just a good time for wrestling all in all, man.
It's funny because I know a lot of people were piling the heat on Sienna and Madison Rain for going to the Mae Young Classic. To a point, I get it. Another part of me is like, why wouldn't you try it at least?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've heard a little bit about how Madison Rain was used in that match. Whether or not that's actually what happens in the match, I guess we'll have to wait till it airs to see for sure. And apparently Sienna had a pretty good showing in hers, but once again, you can't believe everything you read on the internet. If you did that, we'd all be in a fucking world of hurt. But yeah.
Well, if you also think about it, look at Mae Young. That name has prestige as far as women's wrestling goes, and you have a tournament named after Mae Young. Absolutely. I know you did a rant, and I'm just going to say this. I don't want to get your blood pressure going. I know you did a rant about the fabulous Moolah Battle Royal, which they quickly changed for WrestleMania. But yeah, Mae Young, you could put anything stand with Mae Young. She has that prestige, very toughness, and was just great all around. The other thing I'll mention is I know Jenna was on your shout out to Jenna Lee. She was doing her thing on your show, and you guys actually talked about women's wrestling and Evolution. They also did announce another matchup for Evolution, a rivalry going back to 2006. We got Lita making her return to the ring one-on-one against Mickie James. So that's the other match that they announced besides Alexa Bliss and Trish Stratus.
Is it just me, and like perhaps I'm naive because I don't really watch WWE programming. I think I've made that abundantly clear a few times, but is it just me, or does it seem like they have too many things going on at the same time? They're promoting, like, I believe it's 3 different pay-per-views all within the same essentially within weeks of each other.
Yeah, Taxman, don't even. We even discussed this earlier because we recorded a Max Wrestling podcast, Max Wrestling UK on Twitter. I do a show with a couple UK guys. I'm up at 7 a.m. every Thursday. Show goes out Friday. We actually discussed this earlier this morning. There's so many things blended together. Like, you got Hell in a Cell next week. Then you got October 6th, they're going to Australia. And the big thing off of that is for the last time ever, it's going to be Triple H versus The Undertaker. And they've already announced a lot of matches like Charlotte and Becky Lynch and AJ Styles and Samoa Joe that are going to be on Hell in a Cell are going to be on that show in Melbourne, Australia. And then, obviously, October 24th is the big one. That's the Evolution, the first female all pay-per-view for WWE. So there's so many things that they're building towards, and 2 of them are already close together. And then you got the end of October with Evolution. So, I mean, yeah, everything's kind of like close together, and it's kind of like intertwining with everything.
I would just hate for that one to kind of, like, and I'm talking about the Evolution one specifically, I would hate for that to kind of get lost in the shuffle. Like, I really, and I had made the point when in my conversation with Jenna, like, I really do feel like they need to hit this one out of the park, because if this is a big miss, I can't see them doing it again.
Oh, yeah, man. And some of the rumored matches, I believe you spoke about this with Jenna. Ronda Rousey and Nikki Bella is the rumored one for the Raw Women's title. On Twitter, Naomi had actually said that she would like to wrestle former WWE Women's and Divas champion Melina. So, I mean, Melina was also a big part of the women's revolution, if you want to call it that, back in like the mid-2000s, former champion. As far as other matches go, I've heard Brie versus Maurice is a possible one for Evolution due to the whole thing with Daniel Bryan and The Miz and that feud. And personally, one I'd love to see, because I had a nice exchange in the Women's Royal Rumble, I'd love to see Beth Phoenix versus Nia Jax. I think that would be really good. And Beth, is still doing her thing. She was doing commentary for the Mae Young Classic, because last year it was Jim Ross and Lita. This year it's Michael Cole, Renee Young, and Beth Phoenix doing commentary for the Mae Young Classic. So let's just see how everything unfolds.
I really think that Renee Young she's totally found her niche in commentary. I think, like, I know there was somebody had tweeted out that she makes the female wrestlers sound like marks or something like that. I don't know if you caught that. I don't know who put it out there, but I seen that and I was like, yeah, I get it to a point, but like, to me, she did a great job. What match I actually watched a match that she had commentated on, and I can't for the life of me remember what it is now. It was at that Raw.
I know which one you're talking about. I can't think of it, but I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and she did a great job, and I'm like, just let her go. You know what I mean?
Let's backtrack at this, Taxman. I'll backtrack a little. The girl has done commentary on NXT when Dusty Rhodes was the general manager.
That's right, too, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm like, if you let this girl go with it, yeah, she's fantastic at what she does with interviews, but just let her be on commentary and let her do her thing. I mean, she's really good. And, she's got Dean Ambrose. I mean, she's got a lot of people to learn from. She's got her man there. She just let her go. I think Renee Young's a huge asset. I like Renee Young on commentary. Keep it going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sorry, I totally agree. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on this evening?
Okay, so I know ICW has a card, and I'll pull this up. And the only reason I'm going to mention this is because, first of all, if you've not seen ICW, guys, it's a tremendous promotion in the UK. Some of the stars that you've seen on Impact, Joe Hendry and Grado, came from there. You see a lot of them on NXT UK coming up, but I had to mention one match that is actually going to be on an upcoming card. Let me see if I can get this up. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna go onto their page for 1 second. So on their upcoming show, we're actually gonna have Viper, who was Piper Niven in the Mae Young Classic. She's going to be taking on Taya Valkyrie for the ICW Women's Championship. So you got that Impact Wrestling Lucha Underground tie in there. We got Viper versus Taya going down. So I'm looking forward to that. I think they're both good. Viper, for her size, is amazing. Then we got Taya Valkyrie doing her thing. So I'm looking forward to that matchup. So I think that's going to be next month. Let me scroll down here. There it is. Yeah, September 15th. It's going to be ICW Women's Championship Viper versus Taya Valkyrie. That's actually going to be in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So you got the ICW Women's Championship being defended in Minneapolis, Minnesota for First Wrestling. So there you go. If you're in the Minneapolis area, go ahead.
A week after I'm there, of course.
I know, right?
Jesus.
Well, and also PCW Ultra, who you've seen, I think Sammy Callahan did a match there. They showed some highlights from a show there on Impact. Tessa Blanchard's going to be fighting Diamante coming up, I believe, tomorrow or over the weekend for their women's championship. So you get Tessa Blanchard and Diamante, who we've hardly see ever wrestle on Impact, is going to be wrestling Tessa Blanchard going forward.
She's had such an unfortunate string, and I'm talking about Diamante, such an unfortunate string of injuries. It almost seems like she'd come back from, she had the shoulder, right, then she went out with a knee, and then she came back from that, and then it was something else, and it's like, man, the girl just has bad luck.
And it's a shame because I think she's really good. Angel Rose, we've seen her on the independent circuit. There's actually that one match out there. She wrestled under her real name, and she fought Asuka on a edition of NXT, and she got... You know what's so funny, Taxman, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I'll mention this to your listeners. If you actually look at the time frame from this, she wrestled Asuka on that NXT, and then, not too long after that, we found out this new reincarnation of LAX being Santana, Ortiz, Conan, and Diamante being Angel Rose. So she was on WWE NXT programming, and then right after that, she was on Impact. But yeah, that was her tryout match, and then she went to Impact. And yeah, it's just been an unfortunate string of luck with her. I really do like her. I really wish her nothing but the best.
I'll never forget the first time I saw Diamante was when LAX was having the feud with DK, and she nailed a sick Hurricane Rana on Crazy Steve.
Oh, Crazy Steve, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, caught him, and I was like, wow. I saw that, and I was like, I was sold right away. And then I started to watch some of her old stuff, and yeah, she's a fantastic talent. Obviously, wish her all the health in the world, because she needs it. And I would love to see her make a push for the Impact title. I'm not sure, for the Impact Knockouts title, I should say. I'm not sure what her contract status is with Impact right now. I don't know if it's a loose one or what it is, but to me, she's so good, and she would just add so much depth to that division. And then obviously you have the LAX tie-in as well.
Oh yeah, and I'll be honest, when I think of Hurricane Rana's, how she would do it to men, it reminded me of Lita when she was with S.A. Rios and the Hardy Boys doing her thing. That gave me those old flashbacks from the Attitude Era there.
Yes, I agree.
Now, the other thing I got to mention with Diamante is, if you actually look it up, because I was looking on YouTube, there's actually 3 matches on Explosion. There's a 8-woman tag that featured Diamante wrestling in it. There's a matchup with Angelina Love one-on-one, and then there's a matchup that they put up with her and Su Yung on Explosion. And if you look up Scarlett Bordeaux, there's only one match that she's technically speaking had with Impact. There's actually a match on Explosion, and she did fight Katarina. So that was the only time we saw Scarlett Bordeaux technically see her wrestle in Impact.
I had seen the that there was the clip out there. Well, not clip. I guess it was the full match from Explosion with the Scarlett Bordeaux and Katarina match. I'm fumbling. See, look, the hot mess or the not hot mess. I'm getting my I'm all blinded here, brother. I'm losing my marbles here. She's got me feel like Bobo. I'm fumbling over myself here, but. But I had seen the clip that match was available, and I was like, I kind of want to watch it, but I kind of want to wait for her to make her debut on the main roster, like have an actual, have a match on the actual show.
Agreed, man. But yeah, those explosion clips get out there, and you see a lot of the around the rings out there. I think Stone Rockwell's been on one, Sugar Dunkerton, and all these guys. But yeah, if they get on the Impact roster, so be it. I mean, we saw Stone Rockwell do the 10-second job. But yeah, man, it's just all about exposure. And like I said, as far as Impact goes in wrestling, I gotta say, if you've not seen All In, check out All In. Impact this week was solid, but I think both Taxman and myself can concur that main event segment just makes us want to rip our heads out because they hot shot it, and it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck, man? We're like Jim Cornette. What the fuck? Goddamn son of a bitch.
Goddamn. Double cheese, double onion. See, that's why I love... Yeah, I love having you on the show. If not only for... like you're a goddamn fucking wrestling encyclopedia. I could ask you probably any goddamn name and you could tell me their 4 best matches and 3 promotions that they're with and what they had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 2 weeks. And like it's so good. And then obviously we get the comedy aspect of it all. But no, man, like you and I, for being miles apart, shall we say, think like obviously on most of the same wavelengths, the Joey Ryan Dick stuff included, by the way, just so we make that all clear.
Oh yeah.
And just that's why I enjoy having you on the show, and to be able to pick your brain, and not just because you'll agree with everything I say. Obviously, you're no yes man, but just like, man, you know everything. Like I don't even know what else to ask you. Like, goddamn, you know everything. I get embarrassed on my own show that I get schooled this badly on my own fucking show. Oh, it's so good, man. Oh my god.
Right, it's the love and respect I have for pro wrestling. I respect all the guys and gals and everything in pro wrestling. I love it. So anytime I'm happy to come on shows and talk with you like we're doing tonight, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All
right, so I'm going to keep my open invite open to you whenever you want, but before we shut it down for this evening, because I'm sure that you want to go to bed, it's well past midnight your time right now. Is there anything you would like to give a quick plug? I know you got the new website. Get your Twitter in there as well.
Oh, yeah. It's www.StephenMikeShow.com. The SoundCloud is MC Larkin92. What's great about the whole Stephen Mike Show network, there's a lot of pop culture, there's a lot of wrestling, there's a lot of fun stuff and interviews as well. There's no really new interviews up yet. There's some more pop culture shows. I just did a 90s pop show with Noah Bastian, who was in the group Together. For those that remember Together from the early 2000s, they used to mock the boy bands. So I had Noah Bastian on. We talked his time with Together and stuff. So that was fun. I mean, man, I love what I do. I mean, SoundCloud's MC Larkin92. It's StephenMikeShow.com. The Twitter's at SMShow1 or at MCL92. MCL92 is more like my personal one, but hey, you could say hello to me on that and SMShow1. And if you guys like some pop culture, the pop culture one is at pop_culture_pod. I put a lot on there as well. And if you're a fan of Impact, which I know a lot of you listeners probably are, you can check me out at Impact Rewind. You know, I post some old Impact stuff there, and Impact audios associated with the Stephen Mike Show network. I'm actually working on a couple Impact ones. One in particular that I have coming soon, I'm actually going to do a recording of, is the 13-year anniversary of the debut of Impact Wrestling's premiere on Spike TV, which saw the debut of Team 3D, Brother Ray and Brother Devon, and it also showcased the opening matchup on that show was AJ Styles versus Roderick Strong from 2005, so be on the lookout for that.
Fantastic, and don't be a fool.
Yep, StephenMikeShow.com. Check it out. Boom.
Boom. Okay, just before I get it here for the evening, if you're listening to us on one of the streaming services, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever the platform may be, wherever you find, steal, trade, borrow, barter, whatever, this podcast, I would encourage you highly to please subscribe, rate, and review the show. As well, if you are not listening there, or if you want to check us out on YouTube as well, youtube.com/c/six-sided podcast. I also have the YouTube exclusive series, TNA Impact in Reverse. I've thus far covered Kevin Nash, Christopher Daniels, Tara, and Taryn Terrell's time in TNA Impact, so we definitely want to give those a look. The Kevin Nash one has been the most well-received so far, although my personal favorite that I've released thus far has been the Christopher Daniels one. so you definitely want to give that a check out as well. As usual, if you have any comments, questions, queries, you want to be on the show, whatever, you can find me on Twitter at 6_podcast. You can also email me anytime, 6sidepod@gmail.com. That's all letters, no numbers or gimmicks in that one. And I just want to say a special shout out as well. WrestlingWithWrestling.com. If you've never checked that site out, that's my main go-to with my boy Andre Corbeil. You'll notice other ones like the Clock Cleaners podcast you can find on there. You can find Robert from Robert Does Wrestling, a host of others, Chuck P, bunch of guys. It's a great site, honestly. If you've never checked it out, you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice, if you will. So once again, that's www.wrestlingwithwrestling.com. Also want to give a shout out to thedailysmark.com as well. They've done a great job of putting me up on their site as well. So while you're doing your checking out of wrestlingwithwrestling.com, throw this one in your search bar as well, thedailysmark.com. You can also follow them on Twitter at thedailysmark. And one other piece of business that I wanted to get into. I've had a few people, believe it or not, asking me if I'm going to be getting into t-shirts at all for the show. I don't want to do something like a Patreon page or whatever. I don't really agree with that kind of stuff, but people have been asking me if I'm going to get into shirts. I am. I'm in the process of finalizing the details with a certain company, so when those details come out, I will obviously let everybody know. They will be able to ship worldwide, so that'll be fun, but just looking forward to that in the next couple of weeks. So, Six-Sided Podcast t-shirts. Who knew? I didn't even know that this was going to be a thing that everybody would enjoy, but it is, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And hey, if you people want it, I'm all for it. So obviously I'm going to keep you guys updated and apprised with how that all goes. So for myself, the Taxman, for my special guest, Micheal Larkin, and for each and every one of you, thank you all very much for tuning in. Honestly, you guys could have done anything else in the world, but you chose to spend some time with me, and I greatly appreciate it. On that note, I'm going to get out of here and say goodnight for the evening. So take care of yourselves and each other. Good night, everyone.